Everything big that we are facing, individually, collectively, we knew prior our incarnation. We have agreed to that. The
Mhm.
basic negative events which happen in our life, also the positive ones, we're familiar with prior our incarnation. We know that we would face these, and we know that we have the free will in each situation to solve them. So whatever we are facing, we have at one time created ourselves, and it comes now back to us because we are strong enough to face it and overcome it. And this also includes the political situation that we suddenly find ourselves in this from a very relatively calm 70 years after the Second World War, or was it longer? Something like that. Now we suddenly find ourselves in an extreme emotional turmoil in this country. And what comes up largely is our shadows on both sides.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spiritual Forum. I'm so glad you're here. And I'm just really grateful for all who tune in and all who are on the path of inspiration and hope and awakening. And we are here on this planet at this time to awaken to our divine self. And I'm going to have a fabulous conversation today with my guest about that. I just wanted to say thanks for everyone for participating and sharing this podcast. You can participate more if you want by commenting, by subscribing to the newsletter, and engaging on YouTube. So thank you, everybody. Also, you can learn about my retreat at thespiritualforum.org/retreat. Enough said about that. I'm so excited to have Hans Wilhelm with us again today. This is the third time I've had him on, and he is just so full of wisdom and fun. He's a mystic, author, and illustrator of over 200 books for all ages, including some together with Byron Katie. His books have sold over 40 million copies and are translated into 30 languages. And for more than 12 years, Hans has created over 170 short YouTube videos in which he visually explains the spiritual laws of the universe. Now, in these videos, you can watch him drawing the dynamics of these laws and see how all the dots connect. This absolutely unique visual presentations has made his videos so successful that they've been watched by over 20 million viewers. And the videos are also available for free on lifeexplained.com. Now, Hans says his wish is to inspire viewers to explore spirituality and to look at the bigger picture perspective of their life. And I'm going to let him talk more about that. Welcome, Hans.
Carol, thank you for inviting me again. It's delightful to see you again and to be on your show.
I'm so happy to see you again too. And I just love your videos. I think before we get into it, I just think it is the most brilliant way to communicate spiritual lessons. I just think it's better than a book. It's better than standing up and talking. And I just think you've really captured an amazing way to be this teacher and this platform for consciousness on the planet. So I wanted to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, I'm not a real teacher. I'm just doing the videos for myself because I'm a student on the spiritual path. And by drawing out the spiritual laws for myself, making it clear, it just becomes very clear to me and it helps me. And sharing that with others, I understand it helps others as well because I like to see visually how point A connects to point B and C and how karma works, how reincarnation works, the law of attraction, etc. When I visually draw that out, which I do here usually in and so on, like here the law of karma, like somebody hurt someone else that is stored in his body, in the Akashic records and the planets and comes back and so on. When I see this for myself, then this whole concept of karma, reincarnation, becomes very clear. It's very different. As you say, when I read about it, I just have to sort of work on it sometimes. And these videos were originally made to build for young people, and young people, of course, have today an attention span of a flea. So they are 5 minutes long, which is far too long for young people because they even moan about TikTok, it's being too long. But there are still
Yeah.
once in a while somebody there and is willing to watch a video which is 5 minutes or 6, 7 minutes long. I keep them very short on purpose because when I started them off 12 years ago, the short, attention span was already short then, but it has gone much shorter as the time progressed. With
Yeah, it is. It is strange. It is strange that we can't stay in attention for very long. But I do think that the shortness of them also provides it's a succinct lesson, and there's enough there to kind of like, okay, I've got to sit with that for a while. But I guess what I really appreciate is I know some of us are visual learners, some of us are auditory learners, some of us what is like
kinetic,
a visual.
kinetic.
What is yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm visual. I know even when I was, way back a long time ago and I worked as an engineer in an oil refinery, I would talk to the people who worked for me and they would tell me, well, this, da, 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 da. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'd hand them like a piece of paper and I'd say, can you draw it for me? Because the operations were really complex and they could say it was this pump or that pump or whatever, and this elbow was, you got to draw it for me. Once they drew it for me, oh, I could see that. I get that. Now I know exactly what you're talking about. And so for us visual learners, it really, really is helpful. So anyway, I just really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I'll have links. Any videos that we mention in our conversation today, I'll have links to them in the show notes so people can take a look themselves. But you cover so many different spiritual laws, and why don't you share a little bit before we get into some content? Share a little bit about the source material that you use for your teaching and learning.
Yeah. Well, I have been on a spiritual quest already when I was a teenager. And I started off with Edgar Cayce and Course in Miracles and all these kind of things for many, many years. But it was 40 years ago when I came into contact with a teaching from a woman in Germany. Her name is Gabriela, called the Emissary of Light. And her teaching are by far, for me, the highest and more detailed and the clearest teaching, because she speaks in today's language, not like Edgar Cayce, Rudolf Steiner, who are very complex to read. You have to read the sentence 3 times to understand it. But she speaks very clearly, and through her, the spiritual world, divinity speaks to them, various teachers from the other side, from the absolute reality. And they have given over 50 years now, she has been teaching this material, thousands of revelations. And you see all these books behind me, they're all her various books which she has published over the years. And what I like so much about it, the emphasis is that the spiritual path to enlightenment, to grow, is a path between you and divinity. And there are no priests, there are no organizations, there is nobody in between, which means that there is nothing for you to join to learn these laws. It is something, it's up to you whether you want one what is ready to learn them. And so it's to create the connection between you and God, you and Christ, whoever you feel more comfortable with. And over the years, many, many, many teachings have come. One of these look like these big books here. These are these, what is it? The great cosmic teachings of Jesus of Nazareth to his apostles and disciples who would understand them, who could understand them. It's a huge book, and there is a lot of that materials, and I'm using that to understand it myself, and that's how I created these videos. So I'm not working on behalf of Gabriela or the publishing house or by those. I do this totally on my own, but it has been very helpful. And as I said, I have not seen anything even close what is so clear, so easy to understand, because Gabi always says God is ingenious simplicity. It is our churches, our intellect usually makes it very complicated to come to God. But the fact is, it's very close. God is in you. The kingdom of God is in you. And you just have to open yourself up and get yourself onto a higher vibration. And the tools for that are very simple. They're by giving 2,000 years ago, there are the 10 Commandments and the Sermon on the Mount. There is not much else. Basically, it comes back to the lesson is to love and nothing else. But it's all very easy said. But it helps to have certain, to understand the law of attraction, the law of projection, and all these things, and how the planets work together and so on. When you see this, how it all works together, and it's all there to help us to move on, move forward. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I just returned from a dream vacation with my husband. We were in Sicily. And in Sicily, there were many cathedrals that we went into. And I had to stop going to the cathedrals, as beautiful as they are. To me, my understanding is that Jesus, as the Christ, came to like eliminate all these layers between us and God, and then we built all of these layers, around this religion that reinstated everything that I think that Jesus was trying to eliminate, so that we could have a direct connection with God. So that's what it sounds like Gabriela's interpretations are as well.
He speaks a lot about it. Yeah, it is the church organizations which have really removed the people away from divinity and have them to capture them into their own kind of group and circle. And yeah, there are a lot of books written on that subject. And the churches have really persecuted her in Germany for many, many years. She, by the way, died last year in
I
80,
was wondering about that.
91
Okay.
years, yes. But yes, the church organization is not what we call Christian. They speak about it, but they're not living by it. I mean, look at the pomp at the moment with the election of the Pope and so on with Christ. Would Christ
Yeah.
really have such a goat
Yeah.
and so on? Think about it. It just makes no sense.
I know. I walked into this one cathedral and it was beautiful because it was all mosaic, and it was from, I think, the year 1210 is when it was consecrated. And in at the very front was this massive mosaic depiction of Jesus looking down on everyone. And I thought, whoa, that's just not what I know of Jesus. So anyway, I don't want to be too critical of church. I think it's provided a service, but there. But God and us, there's a direct connection there. It's like it's direct, and that was the message. And to create all these layers keeps us from experiencing our own divine nature, and allows us to be controlled by outside forces.
Carol, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's a problem there that we are sort of kept away from divinity, and when we understand that divinity is in us, it's so close, closer than our breath. Then it just changes. And also, we become more aware that wherever we are basically supported. We have got the highest energy in us, a power in us. Whatever we are facing, we are not facing alone because the kingdom is in us. It's not far away, somewhere out there. It's in
Right.
us. And that it's difficult to really spin your head around this. I agree. It's not easy to really understand what Christ meant when he said, "The kingdom of God is in us, and you are the temple of divinity, your body." But when we really go into it and look at it, there is a lot of comfort, a lot of strength in that one.
It's amazing. And I keep thinking, or I see that if even a small portion of the population, like 5% or some of really got that, I just think things would really shift in another way. But we're so distracted, and there's so much coming at us that keeps us away from recognizing that. And that's really kind of what I want to focus our conversation on, if there's such a way to focus today, because there's so much to talk about. But let's talk about the current state of humanity without looking at it as an us versus them. A couple of the videos that really popped out for me was the one on our thoughts are alive. And also, it was about raise our consciousness. The raise our consciousness talked about. There was another one before that talked about the cocoon, small ego world we create for ourselves. But I thought the thoughts are alive was so interesting because we're so bombarded with thoughts. And your video starts by saying we have 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Oh my gosh!
Yeah. And they all are alive, and they all want to manifest. I give the example of an architect who just sort of has firstly the thought of a house, then draws it out, and then somebody else builds it. This is a typical life of a thought. A thought wants to be manifest itself. So if we have got a negative, nasty thought, that nastiness somehow wants to continue live, and it looks for other nastiness. It is like it's about everything is vibration in life, and thoughts are vibration, and they are alive. They don't have a soul, but they're alive, and they look for like mind, like vibrating other soul complexes which are around us wherever we are. And that's how they connect with others and sometimes become very, very big thought bubbles. And when somebody has a similar negative thought like the thought bubble, then that thought bubble can attach itself to that person and make his thinking even stronger. And not only that, the moment we are in a thought bubble, we are basically not in the here and now. Whatever we are thinking about the tea we are making in half an hour, about the car crash from last week, or the job I still have to apply for, that moment that I'm thinking about these topics, everything else around me totally disappears and does not even exist. And that's why thoughts are so isolating. And thoughts are also, in the way, the major reason why we once left the absolute reality and came into the temporal reality in which we are now, which has time and space and sowing and reaping, which does not exist in the absolute reality from where we came, our true home. So we do have this situation because thoughts can be very, very destructive. Of course, there are happy thoughts, positive thoughts as well. But a negative thought can be very powerful. And if we have a negative thought and send it to another person whom we may hate, that thought can go directly to that person. If the person has a similar vibration in his thinking, it can attach himself to that person. It can make it worse and worse in the other person. If that person then goes out and does something nasty to someone else because he has been infected by our negative thoughts, then we are karmically connected to that person until that whole karma has been dissolved. It's a very powerful kind of sequence which takes place here. So, therefore, it is very important to watch our thoughts and catch ourselves as fast as possible before these thoughts become big. A thought for a few seconds and so on, which we have all the time, does not have the power to survive. But if a thought is repeatedly thought, repeatedly thought, repeatedly thought, it then gets into our body and from our body into the soul, and from the soul it goes then into the planetary storage planets from where they eventually come back as karma. So it helps us to catch us whenever we are caught in a negative thought. And that can happen in depression, when we are angry, when we're fearful, and so on. So, yes, there is a lot going on. And also, what is important is, where are we? If we are going in a city, for instance, that is full, it's like a sewage. All these thought forms of people are swirling around there, around us. We are not aware of it, but they're all around us. They're all vibrations of thought forms, alive. While it's going into a forest, it's usually very free of it, and that's usually we can think clearer, and it clears our mind because it's just no, we are not so much surrounded by negativity. So that's sort of end of my sermon.
Yeah, no, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going because I mean, some of our thoughts are ours. Like I could say, I'm not deserving of that, or that guy's a jerk, or whatever. And then other thoughts, it seems like there's some programming that's going on through our media, through movies, TV. There's messages, and I don't know exactly how that looks, but it seems like we kind of glom onto those, and sometimes then we think there are thoughts, but they've been given to us. They've been programmed into us, or that we've accepted them as our thoughts. And then they seem to really multiply on a collective level if it's put out there by media.
Yeah, yeah. Our politicians are masters of this. They give us a statement which may not even be true, but they repeat it so often that all their followers, after a certain time, will repeat the same kind of story. That's how a thought or a lie or an untruth, which they call it, can really manifest itself in a large population.
Yeah.
Then, of course, negative things can happen out of this. Maybe the anger can rise in a group, and they may go to do destructive things out of this one, individually as well as collectively. So yes, thoughts are we are constantly inundated by thoughts, television and so on, particularly,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, sometimes I wonder if during the COVID years, sometimes I wondered if the news had been more silent about all of the cases and the red lines and the fear, fear, fear. Sometimes I wonder how people would have reacted to it. And that's just one example. There's many ways that the media can explode some sort of story that gets people all riled up and divided and upset and angry and ready to go to war or whatever. But sometimes I wondered if there was silence there, if it just kind of would have come through and left, and we would have all been better off.
Well, that is where our free will comes in, Carol. We can switch the stuff off. We don't
We can.
subscribe. We know the buttons on the computer. We don't have to watch everything which comes up. And I think that is very important. And that's definitely what many of my friends have done recently as well, because the news from the medias are not very hopeful in many cases. And some of them have canceled their subscription to newspapers and so on because they just couldn't cope anymore with this constant drip of negativity. And I myself, no different. I just don't watch the news anymore, very seldom. And I only watch
Mhm.
BBC News now because I like an outside kind of view of what really happens in the world. And so, yes, we can. This is our free will comes on. And what do we expose ourselves to? And this doesn't
Yeah.
only apply to news media. It can also be to movies, to anything. What else do we watch? Violence? Do we see violence or things like this? And etc. This also has an effect on us. Everything has an effect on us. We have the free will to be either consume trash food, make our body sick, or trash media and make our brain sick, our heart, our soul sick.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I stopped watching the news about 5 years ago, and even then, I wasn't watching a lot, but I don't watch it anymore at all. And I do watch movies, but I'm on a violence hiatus. I'm not gonna watch anything that has
Me too.
violence.
Me too.
I'm looking for the fun comedic, and even they have messages in there that may be programming, but I'm not I the violence, it's interesting because people think that it's not affecting them because it's not real. Like, it's not real, so I'm just kind of watching this thing that's fake, and so it's not affecting you, but it is affecting you. And I mentioned that I was just on this vacation. There's also these big theaters, these big coliseums where, you know, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they would have gladiators come and everybody would come and watch them kill each other. You know, it's like, how is that entertainment? And then I go, well, how different is that than our entertainment today, except that those are actually real, we're actually real people and we're watching, you know, acting. But I think the watching of the violence has to have generally the same effect on us.
Definitely. And the proof is in the pudding by the fact that we have got the advertising companies are paying billions of dollars for 30-second slots because they know if you see that product, that beer or whatever it is, you will go and buy the stuff. So if the commercial world knows how effective visual impressions are, trust me, those impressions of kind of people of watching negative horror movies and so on do have an effect.
Yeah, they sure do. Now, I don't know if you know this about Unity, which is one of my ordinations, but a big chunk of Unity's teachings is about how we need to get dominion over our mind and our thoughts and release the negative thoughts as quickly as possible, as you say, and replace them with positive thoughts. It's definitely a teaching of Unity, but I know there's other ways to do that as well. I thought it might be fun to talk about the your videos about the cocoon before we talk about raising our consciousness, because I think that's another good illustration about what's happening to us, that we build these cocoons around ourselves and all we're really seeing is a reflection of our own reality. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we all know we have an aura, which is sort of people you can see how whether we are healthy, we are sick, and our thoughts, our the depression, and so on. Some people can see them, children can see them more than adults. But this aura is basically the radiation of our vibration, of our soul vibration. It comes out of us, and whatever goes on in us, all our programs, all our habits, all our vices, all our negativity, all our positive things as well, are stored in us and vibrate out. They vibrate only to a certain area, and at the end, they are usually the pictures because we think always in pictures. And
Mhm.
all the thoughts we are having are pictures, and they surround us. And the whole, it's like a cocoon. And the whole cocoon is basically nothing but a mirror image of ourselves. And wherever we basically see only ourselves. We see through our cocoon, but it is colored by our program. If I see another person there walking very slowly and so on, and I see, oh, this is an old man and so on, then my own program of aging is actually giving me the emotional charge of that person there moving rather slow as an old person. Whenever I have an emotional charge to what I see, what I hear, what I notice in the outside world, means that the same thing is in me. So basically, we do not see the world as the world is, but we see the world as we are. And everything is coming from us. The whole world around us is nothing but a mirror of ourselves. Anybody who upsets us, anybody we enjoy, and so on, is a reflection of ourselves. They do exist outside, but we only see them through the colored glasses of our own cocoon. And the colored glasses are our programs, our prejudices, our program, yeah, everything that we have done in this lifetime and even from past lifetimes. All these experiences have colored our life, who we are. And that, I think, is a very important point, that we are living in this cocoon. And the only way to get slowly out of this cocoon is what I mentioned earlier, to really now seriously live by the Ten Commandments, and also on the Sermon on the Mount, which includes the word of forgiveness. Forgiveness, undoing our karma, forgiving the other person, seeing that the other person is merely a mirror of myself, and also understanding that I have the same problem in me, and so on. So we do have the whole process of forgiveness. Anybody who's interested can watch my video on forgiveness, and also the video on projection, the law of projection.
Hmm.
I think it's very important to see how our programs color everything what we see in the outside world.
Yeah, so this is what, we just have to look out in the world and see it. Now we're in the midst of it too. I mean, I'm doing it as well. But I'm kind of distressed when I'm seeing, particularly now. I feel like division is just so acute now. Like there's always been division, but back in my parents' age, they could have Republicans and Democrats could talk together and have dinner and drink wine and enjoy life and be friends at the end of the day. And now it's like one word is mentioned and somebody then gets rid of their friendship. And it's like, it's really sad to me that people are reacting, are being so reactive about somebody having a different thought or a different idea. Even if it's not theirs, it might be a programmed idea. Your ideas may be a program as well. But there's this kind of visceral reaction that people have towards each other that I've been seeing is accelerating. And I've been seeing relationships, long-term relationships, break because of just a difference of view, or a point of view, or a word used in a conversation or whatever. And so this is kind of what's happening, it sounds like. It's like the thoughts are programs and they kind of have us, and they're glomming on with other people who have those thoughts. And now we're projecting and looking at those people, and we're seeing through our own cocoon only, our own view. And so everybody else looks bad. And I think we're here to shift all that so that we can make a different decision, like you said, with free will, and choose to be connected and choose to be expressing our God-given radiance, and that this world that we're in is kind of testing us. Is that kind of aligned with what some of your teachings are, or some of your learnings are?
You said it all perfectly, and I don't have anything to add. Yeah, no, Gabi mentioned very clearly that the times are getting now more and more faster and faster. And not only that, the contrasts are getting faster and faster.
Yes,
People were
yes.
facing much faster extremes, also in their private life. Not forget about the moment for the political situation. Suddenly we are facing with very severe situations which we have to overcome. Before I go into politics, I like to say that everything big that we are facing, individually, collectively, we knew prior our incarnation. We have agreed to that. The basic negative events which happen in our life, also the positive ones, we're familiar with prior our incarnation. We know that we would face these, and we know that we have the free will in each situation to solve them. So it's not just sort of a laid out fate, but what comes to us is all the stuff which we once have stored in the repository planets coming back to us, and now we have to sort them out. So whatever we are facing, we have at one time created ourselves, and it comes now back to us because we are strong enough to face it and overcome it. And this also includes the political situation, that we suddenly find ourselves in this, from a very relatively calm 70 years after the Second World War, or was it longer? Something like that. Now we suddenly find ourselves in an extreme emotional turmoil in this country. And what comes up largely is our shadows on both sides. The shadows of the one side makes the hero out of a person. He is the greatest, he is a leader, he is the savior, which means they themselves put themselves low and put someone else above. That is a shadow. Everybody is equal, but as long as we put other
Hmm.
people above us, we have a major problem to look at ourselves. And the other side does the opposite. They come from a point of superiority and say this person is horrible, etc., and so are all its followers. So in both cases, we are having our own shadows, which I said earlier, the things which we see through our aura, through our cocoon. The person who rules the country at the moment, for those who don't like him, reflects to them characteristics which they don't like.
Hmm.
Why don't they like them? Because
Because it's
they
in them.
are dormant in themselves. Give me the power. Let me be in the Oval Office and see what I can do. Maybe somebody can bribe me too with $1 million or $100 million. Who knows? So that we definitely have that going on. There's more to it. There's also, of course, that you are worried and fearful for your children and so on for the future. But the strong emotional things is that we see somebody who dares to be lying and cheating and doing all the stuff your parents have said you mustn't do, and he gets away of it, and he has followers, and they support him. That is very hard for us to understand. But in us, in all of us, are these tendencies as well.
Well, I think it's also important to note that when the elections go the other way, all the rules change.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
This,
yeah, it's not
yeah,
it's not just today. It's, it's 4 years and 4 years before that and 4 years before
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That
yeah.
one side is always thinking this is the right guy, and the other one's thinking is wrong. And he lies. My guy doesn't lie. It's like they all lie.
Yes,
That's what they
yeah.
do.
Biden was such a corrupt person and so on, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely, you're right. It's always the other things. It has become more and more extreme. And it is the only way to get out of this to understand that I have a shadow here. I have something about this person. If I build him up, I do have something with myself. I have definitely something with self worth here. Something is wrong with me because there's a story that like, people say so a lot of people of his supporters are people who do not feel, males, for instance, young males, who do not feel they were able to, how shall I say, had a successful life in some way. They could not really, how shall I say, they had problems. I'm looking for the right word here. Who were not, they felt disadvantaged, and they are sort of a lot of his supporters who feel that there should have been a better deal, and so they feel neglected. So for them to really learn and understand that you are a worthwhile, full, strong person, and you don't need someone else to rescue you. You can rescue yourselves with divinity. That is, I think, a step for some of them, not all of them, for these people. For the others, it's the other way around. If they feel so superior, then let them just look at this, etc. Look at all the negative things which you see in this person, and can you be really, really honest that this does not somewhere in you as well dormant? And if it's dormant, let's look at it and let's face it and see, where have I in my life cheated? When have I lied? When have I told lies? Yeah, lies. And when I've done all these things, we blame him for. And when we are very, very honest, we will find out that
We'll see it. Yeah, we'll
there
see
are
it.
certain
Yeah.
instances. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether you lied on a small lie or a big lie, but you lied. So you do have
Yeah.
the same kind
We
of
all
thing.
lie. We do.
It's
Yeah.
really our mirror.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that when we claim our divinity, when we really live from that place, I don't think I don't think we need leaders at all. I think that we will organize in a completely different way, and we won't be giving up our power to some leader that will have new ways of communicating, new ways of connecting, and that we won't organize like we're putting people in charge of certain things over us. I don't think we'll need that at all.
Once we are as balanced that we don't feel unworthy or not worthy enough or overworthy, like I feel better than you, that will work, yes. But as
Yes.
long as there's some of us still feel disadvantaged and the other one be over advantaged and take advantage of it, the imbalance there, then we will easily have a leader rising out of this one that says, I will save you in one way or
Yes.
another.
We're looking for saviors. We're looking for somebody else to solve all the problems.
And then,
Which brings me to a point of what I see a lot. I see a lot of people saying, the world is degrading. We're in end times. Jesus is coming, and so I've had other guests on. And we've talked about quote the second coming as being within ourselves. Rising up in our with our own divinity. I was wondering what you thought about that.
yeah, I agree with that latter one, definitely as well. I definitely see there's another coming. And that's why we do have this very speeding up of time as well as of events which are taking place. It can become much more catastrophic than we like to think, or maybe not. I don't want to make a too black picture. But there will be major upheavals on this planet, and they are there as a cleansing. It is like giving birth to a baby. Not that I have any experience in that, but I know it must be very
In
painful.
a past life, maybe.
Oh, yes. But it must be very painful to sort of deliver a bowling ball and so on through your body, which isn't there for. And
It is.
yes, yeah.
I've done it 3 times.
Oh my gosh, you see? And you do it 3 times and you don't, and after it's done, you're happy.
I would do it again.
I would do it again. You see, this is, I think, this is what we have to. We are in a birthing spirit. The Earth is upgrading frequency-wise, and this is a birthing pain, and we have to go through it. And in these birthing pains, we have the opportunity to unload our own garbage as well. The Earth is unloading its garbage, which means it's throwing off all the negative kind of constructions which we have put on it, like economy, science, etc., which have gone wrong in many, many ways. But we have to now the chance to throw up our own negative karma and all our own negative things so that we can also rise with the planet Earth. So it's a great opportunity for growth. And if we see it as a transitionary time and also something which millions or billions of souls knew about 100 years ago, etc., because they all incarnated now for this great, great event. Remember, we only had 1.5 billion inhabitants on planet Earth in the year 1900. It's only a
Yeah.
short while ago. There was, and then suddenly, whoosh, up to 8 millions. Why? Why did suddenly all these souls press for incarnation? Because this is the most interesting time and the most greatest opportunity for a soul to undo their karma. If we now go through this period, which is very stressful for some and very difficult, we can unload so much garbage which we have accumulated from lifetime to lifetime that after this, we, our soul, will be freed. And that is the reason why we have got this, what some call an overpopulation or close to it. It is because the souls know, or knew from the other side, on the spiritual side, what a great event is taking place on planet Earth.
I mean, that's exciting.
Yes,
That's
if you
it's
detach and see it from the real, from
yeah,
the anger.
yeah. I mean, we're here. It's like we've come for the show. It's not a show. We're a part of it.
Yes.
But it's very hopeful. It's very inspiring, and that we're like nothing's happening to us. Like nothing is happening to us. We've chosen to be here for this, and it's an opportunity for us to grow and shed those layers and I guess restore the karma.
Yeah, and all what we call suffering, the suffering this time, is all mind, intellect stuff. It is there's pain, physical pain does exist, but suffering is always a choice. You can see giving birth as a suffering, and you can go and suffer for the rest of your life of what has happened to you, or you can just ignore it, go move on with the child and just forget about it. The choice is of suffering is always by ourselves. And Byron Katie had this wonderful example. If somebody really hits you right now, it hurts. But you are the one who repeats it in your thought pattern year after year after year after year after year after lifetime, lifetime. You hurt yourself every time you think about this event. That is suffering. And that's what we do. And we do it either in advance that we fear of something will happen, which usually doesn't happen, or we have some when we have had something has happened, then suffering, we prolong this event by thinking on and reliving it over and over and over in our mind. And there's a video on suffering for me. If anybody is interested of some ways how we can undo these suffering things and help ourselves there, that may be very helpful, because the suffering thing is a very important thing. So many people think they are victims, and there are no
Hmm.
victims in this life, and that's a very difficult thing to understand for many people. That we are really everything happens for us and nothing to us, as Byron Katie always says. When we understand that everything is medicine to bring us home, everything here happens. And she has got this one quote. I better read this. I like this. I like her quote. If my difficulty, she says, that if my difficult circumstance would be the only way to, to return back home to God, would I accept it? I think that's a very powerful sentence.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
when we see our difficulty this way, that it is a stepping stone and not a stumbling stone, it may be easier to overcome. I'm not saying it's free of pain and suffering, but it is easier when we understand why we are experiencing it and how we can give it over to divinity. Help us. God or Christ is in us. He is the healer. He is our physician, inner physician, who will do anything for us to ease our physical pain and also our emotional pain.
Yeah, it's like the prodigal son that ventures far away from the father and experiences all these negative, horrible things, and it draws him back. It draws him back in a very humble and higher consciousness place. And I think we do lose track of that. We do lose track that this circumstance that I'm in, that is very unpleasant, that hurts, that this thing feels like it happened to me, that it is something that is working for me. Because we're all trying to get back to source.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and but unfortunately, our ego comes in when it's suffering, says, "Look, I'm a victim. Somebody did this to me. I get lots
Yeah,
of attention this way. Look,
yeah.
sorry for me. But how dare they do that to me?" And this goes also into the politics, and we see ourselves as a victim by a politician. We're never really victim. We knew this was going to come. It's not up to individually what we can do. Some march, some protest, some do nothing. We have a free choice of how we want to deal with it. But
Yeah, it's like turning off the channel, like you said with the news. You don't have to watch it. You don't have to participate. You can. And same thing with suffering. Like we can fully participate in suffering, or we can change the channel and choose to grow through it.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's exciting to think that we're here by choice.
yeah,
We're here. We've chosen the mess because good's coming out of it. That it is like a birthing process, and birthing is messy. There's nothing really like clean, and it's beautiful, but it's messy. And what you have out of it is a new life,
yeah.
and that's what we're doing. We're creating a new life, a new world.
Yeah, focus on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just listening to a little meditation this morning by Gabriela, where she says, whenever there's something difficult in your life, close your eyes, imagine yourself here in the center of the universe. All the stars and planets are around you. You feel totally safe in this beautiful surrounding. And planet Earth is far, far, far away, somewhere in the darkness. And on that planet are all your troubles, are all your inconveniences, are all your worries and all your things. But they are not yours. You are an infinite being, an eternal being. And if you really see the world's problems and your own problems far away, it may be easier for you to deal with it. You just remove yourself from the scene, become the observer of your situation from a very high level, because you are the son and daughter of God. You are so strong, you have just no idea how powerful and strong you are. And you identify always as a weak human being here who needs to feel superior other or inferior for others and control others. That's not really you. That's just your ego.
Yeah, that's a beautiful meditation. I know when I led a church, I used to do a meditation where I'd have people envision carrying like a heavy backpack, and the heavy backpack represented, all of their suffering and their problems and all of that, and that you're walking on the shore and just put the backpack down and get into a little boat and row and row and the big backpacks get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and then suddenly you're just enjoying the ocean. It's kind of the same.
Really lovely, yeah. I've got a slightly different backpack story with Pagani said. Imagine everybody has their backpack, their worries, their stuff in and they all go to a mountain and they all put their backpack onto the mountain and then they leave. And then they ask us as to come back and pick
I
what
get your
you want to
backpack.
take. And everybody will take their own backpack.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is the key. That is the thing, interesting thing.
yeah.
Always back because we know the trouble. We have lived with the trouble long enough. I don't know whether I can try. I could walk on your shoes, or I could. I don't know whether I could carry your trouble. And
Yeah, my suffering's familiar.
yeah, exactly. And then we pick it up again and say, "So look at this. This is
I love that.
yeah,
That's an interesting thing to think about. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, like, you have these wonderful videos that, to me, I think are very helpful to bring us back to our truth, like listening to your soul and how to feel God's presence, and so that when we're stuck in the muck or when we're really distracted with the stuff or we're overcome by our thoughts, that to me, some of these teachings, like how to listen to your soul and how to feel God's presence, are really helpful to bring us back to our core. So, can you share a little bit about those?
yeah. It basically comes always back into the here and now. Eckhart Tolle has written wonderful books about this one. But how do we do this? And of course, we have to catch ourselves that we are on the so-called wrong track or this thought pattern and so on. One way, of course, is stop and then breathe. Sort of breathe out slower than you breathe in. That comes already a lot, your whole system in love. And then realize that God is in you, or let's say the essence of God, the core of being, we call it, is right here in the crown of your head. That's where all the energy comes for you. And it flows down on your spine on the left side and goes up on the right side. And as it goes down, it goes through all the chakras, the energy centers of your body. And through there, it feeds all the nerve system and all the organs and the whole system continuously, continuously. But if we do it now consciously, we can increase that flow of divinity in us. We close our eyes and we breathe in because this is the breath of God. And as it breathes in, it flows down, and we breathe out, and it flows out again. By breathing slowly, the energy of God through us, through our whole body, without thinking, just only focusing on the breath, which is the breath of God, that calms us down tremendously. It helps me to center myself. So that I think is a wonderful exercise. And of course, meditations are always a wonderful way to go there, to close your eyes and focus on your breath, on your first few 10 deep breath, and then calm your mind and go within and see what comes up. I mean, I have got several meditations on my YouTube channel. These are guided meditations which definitely help anybody who wants to learn how to become calm and more confident and stronger. They can be very helpful, I think. So there are many, many ways to do that, to calm ourselves, but to realize that the energy is in us. Plus, we are also surrounded by energy. We do have our guardian spirit by our side when we need him. We have got Christ in us, the Christ spark. There's a video on the Christ spark. Very important information. Anybody who wants to know about it, how we got this Christ spark and what it does for us. It's a healing spark. Um, and we have got all these helpers from the spiritual world. Everybody wants us to succeed. Everybody wants us to use these 24,000 days, which we have as a lifetime, as an average, which is very, very little. The older you get, it's less. They want to make the best of that. When we leave this planet, on a higher vibration, because, as I said earlier, everything is vibration. It's nothing else. There is no matter as such. It's all vibration. And we are on a very low vibration as human beings, unfortunately, because we have really fallen pretty much low, pretty far away from our true home. And our goal is to increase our vibration again. And the path to that, simply speaking, are the Ten Commandments and the Sermon on the Mount, or the Golden Rule as well: do unto others as you want.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's very simple. There is no big tricks. There's
Hmm.
definitely no exercise. There is no, what is the word I'm looking at, ritual or anything necessary. On the contrary, these rituals are only usually eye washing. They keep you away from it. Don't do any rituals. Just connect with God, speak directly with God or Christ in you. Speak loud if you can, because by speaking loud, you slow down your thinking process and you're listening to what you're actually saying. So that helps sometimes if you can do that. and the comfort is always there. And all our worries and our fears are things which we have, our ego has created. As I said, maybe you want anybody interested, watch the video on suffering that explains how simple, how easy we have fallen into this trap that we are the suffering and victimized kind of person.
Yeah, I think it's all right here. It's all right in front of us. It's all in us.
Yeah,
We're looking past it. We're just not present enough to see it. And it's like, it's just so. I love what you say because it's so simple. It's not hard. It's simple, and I think we're so used to things not being simple, being really hard or really complex or really difficult. And I've got to go through so many hoops. And it's just right here. Like the kingdom is at hand, it is within us, it's right here. We are so equipped. We're so equipped to be successful and amazing beings. But we choose something like, victimhood or something like that that makes us smaller.
yeah. We also want to be very sure what things going exactly our way because
Yes.
I want that job, I want that, etc. And God must help me do that. And there is the point in to surrender, to let Thy will be
Yes.
done, not my will. If we can do that as well, then we have it together. But as long as we are thinking that the divinity should help us to a specific goal, they're not doing that. They're not.
I know, I know. It's like I want that job, and because I'm so deserving, because I've done whatever.
Right.
Why isn't God giving it to me? I know people who do that, and it's such a trap. I think we've kind of been taught that, but it's such a trap. And like, how do we know what is the absolute right thing for us? I mean, there could be something so much better. So we really do have to surrender. Surrender is really important. I agree. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit too about the video you have on how to listen to animals, plants, and minerals, because to me, that was a really interesting spiritual practice also to really help people become present and to the aliveness of life and the divinity in all things.
Yeah. If we really do this, and it's wonderful, particularly now here in spring and so on, to go around and try to look at a plant. It can be a leaf. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular because God communicates with us all the time from everything because everything contains God, divinity. And God speaks to God is sending and receiving all the time. So wherever we go, the trees are speaking to us, the plants, the animals, even the minerals and the air and the rain, everything is speaking to us, everything continuously because God is consciousness. Same word, consciousness, awareness. So this is consciousness, and consciousness exists through sending and receiving. So when we understand that the bush there with the flowering bush is sending out God's vibration to us, listen to it. What does it want to say to us? Try to get our mind as quiet as possible and just open ourselves and look at it. Not look at it, behold it, Gabi says. Behold it, and we see it from our inner heart, with our heart. It's not an easy exercise, and I must say I've done many times when it just didn't work. But when it worked, wow! I was typical thing. I was going to a party of several people, and there's one or two people who I just didn't want to really be with, quite honestly. And I was going through the garden, and there were all these flowers, these yellow flowers, standing together in a bush. And I looked at them. All right, what do you want to tell me this morning? And they said, "Look at us. We are get together all very nicely. We don't reject each other. How about you? Can you do that too? Can you do this?" And I mean, I didn't make this up. I heard this basically speaking to me that way. And it changed the party because I suddenly entered the party with a totally different kind of attitude. I had to laugh. It says, "This is the last thing I would expect a flower telling me." But there
That's
are
so
several
cute.
examples like this. It doesn't always work, but when it works, you may be surprised the truth we hear. Because again, also it's all a mirror of ourselves because we are basically reflecting something back to us and they're sending something back to us which we have to understand at this very moment. So God speaks to us all the time, from everywhere, from every person, from every plant, animal, and the weather, whatever we is here to speak to us, and everything is here to bring us forward, bring us home.
Yeah, and if we saw that, because I think what we get annoyed by things. It's like we're annoyed by the goose poop, or we're annoyed by, this weed being here or something. And it's like, that's just all ego, because it's all God, it's all consciousness. And maybe that's going to talk to you. I love that. And I think it's an interesting spiritual practice, to allow God's voice to come through the sentience that is out there, that's beyond what we normally believe is sentient. So let's listen to the plants and the trees and the grass and the rocks and the hills and the wind, and experience God that way. I love that.
Yeah, I agree.
Great spiritual practice. Yeah. Well, I want to, we're kind of coming up on our hour, but I wanted to get back to Gabriela a little bit, because I didn't realize that I was going to ask if she was still alive, and it sounds like she just recently passed. So how old was she, and when did she start with these revelations?
I think 92. I think she was
Okay.
92, or 91 and 92. Yeah. And she started 50 years ago. For 50 years, she gave conscience, and
So she was in her 40s.
she started in her 40s, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, but she was a humble housewife and a Catholic and so on. But she had a problem with her when her mother died. She was very close to it. She really missed her mother. And then one day when she was married and so on, suddenly somebody says, I am God and I'm speaking through you. And she said she was flipped out and so on. And her husband said, well, that's something to say, write it down. And some slowly it just came through. And as I said, and slowly she learned over time. And it turns out that she has incarnated many times before for this role. And some say she was Hildegard von Bingen and so on. So she really has been on this path for a long time. And she never really wanted to speak out. She hated it to be in public and so on. And what is interesting, you don't see any photos of her in all the books, etc. There are no photos of her. She didn't want anything. She died. I don't know whether anybody knows where she is buried, because she doesn't want any kind of cult after that. And so she is very says, this is the message I'm hearing. It's not me. And I was lucky and fortunate to travel with her through America when she gave talks here in America. And I was I translated for her, which was really wonderful. And I've met her, the most humble and wonderful being. It's not only teaching, she also what I found is she also her memory goes right back to the absolute reality where she describes it in many of her videos, the details. And then she tries to develop, she is also a designer. She designed many houses which are closely built, what we can here on planet Earth, resembling the absolute reality here. And there are many houses in Germany built by her designs. And that is the huge library of all her books at the
Oh,
Sophia Library
wow.
in Germany. So she is a designer. She has a lot of information for the agriculture. There are many agriculture farms which are using organic, of course, but also very specific when to sow, what condition, weather, and so on, stars, etc. So all this detail is coming, and it's all in these books, and it's all in the library. It is immense. We have never received anything of that magnitude. And the best thing, as I said, it's easy to understand.
Yeah. Now, did she have a family? Did she have children?
Yeah, she had a daughter and her husband, and she went alone the path at the end because her husband has had major. The Catholic Church was brutal because she really put them on the spot, and so his business suffered from that as well in this little town. So I think they made a very pleasant agreement that she goes this path on her own, basically to protect her husband and her family at the time. And so they separated, but not in a way of a normal divorce. But she did it just for her calling, which as the emissary of light. So as I said, the humility, the humbleness, and the forcefulness and the clarity of her revelations are just amazing. And you can listen 24 hours and see it on television. They have a television program. It's called Santec Radio, Santec, and then radio. And if you go on that, there's a television series. It's 24 hours in English, in many different languages. So there they share the teachings, reading. Again, no priests. Nobody has got any kind of hierarchy there. Nothing to join. And there's also on that page, there's also an audiothek, which is an audio library. And there you can click on and listen to various teachings, lessons from the divine reality, for us to if you want to, and meditations. There's a lot of material one can listen to at any time of the day if one wants to, and it's all free and it's all I said, yeah, without any priest teachers or any.
It's really interesting. And how did you find her?
Well, somebody dragged me 40 years ago to a town close by here to this one person who just came from Germany, and I says, "Oh no, this is not for me," and so on. And then, but when I heard it, some more and more, I heard it says, "I've known this all my life."
Yeah.
This is the thing, the
Yeah.
comment which I find in my videos over and over again. People say, "I have known this all my life, but I've never seen it like this explained. Deep down, I've known it." And this happened to me as well. Deep down, I knew it all, but it has never been brought up to my conscious level. And she brought it to my conscious level, what deep down I've known all the time.
Yeah, I really get that. A lot of people who walk into Unity churches feel the same way. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm at home. I didn't know this existed.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. But what I love about that story, though, is you didn't really want to go.
Literally, no, no, I wasn't looking for anything. I was.
I mean, it's a good story about how we don't always know what we want. If you had your choice, you wouldn't have gone there, and then you wouldn't have had this exposure, and so
The same happened when I was sort of 19. I was in South Africa, and a friend of mine says, "There's somebody coming from America and giving a talk, and I'd like to record this." And I had equipment for recording equipment. That time, cassette recorders were just, this is now 50 years ago, 60 years ago. So I had them. It says, "Can you come and help me to record it?" And that was a representative from Edgar Casey and talked for the first time about reincarnation, which I've heard of course, but in my environment in Germany, that was totally non-existent. And wow, I was pulled into this, and I opened my eyes as reincarnation. Now suddenly everything makes sense. Why there are rich, poor people and
yeah,
people
yeah.
suffering. Suddenly it never made sense life. I could never believe in a loving God when I saw all the pain in the world. And suddenly it says, wow, now everything makes sense.
It does. I remember I was like 9 years old and driving through some part of a town that was more impoverished than what maybe I was younger, but anyway, than what I had known in my upbringing. And I thought, how can this be? So it's all inside my little mind, my heart. And I feel like it was my angel guides or something, because from my standpoint, I thought, wow, there must be something like reincarnation. I didn't have the word reincarnation. There must be something where we're coming back and we all kind of get to do different roles. And in my mind, I made it up, but I know it was divinely inspired. It was kind of given to me as a gift to try to explain the world that I was seeing as a young child that didn't make any sense to me.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we know it. We know it, you know?
All this. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, we do. Yeah. It's like hearing an old song. Oh, I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Okay. Well, Hans, this has been so much fun. I love having you on. This is the third time I've had you on, and we could talk about anything and everything. I want to give you a last word, though. Is there something that you want to share with my listeners that you maybe haven't gotten a chance to speak about?
No, nothing in particular. As I said, I don't sell anything. I just have make these videos just for my own enjoyment and learning. And anything I have to offer, you can go onto my website, lifeexplained.com, or onto YouTube channel. And if you have got questions, you're welcome to write to me. But most of the questions are actually answered in the various videos.
I'm
So
sure.
if you ever
Yeah.
have a question or whatever it is, you will find the video. But if there's still something outstanding, I try to answer every email that I do receive. And you
Yeah.
connect on the Life Explained page. There is a contact page where you can connect to me and send an email if you wish.
Yeah, and as I go through and edit this, I'll pull out all of the videos that we mentioned, and I'll have links to all of them in our show notes, so it'll be easy for people to find. And I think the next time I have you on, maybe we'll talk about your children's books, because I'm kind of intrigued by your children's books. I mean, I know it's the same message, but it's from another perspective. It is for children, which I think is really cool to have spiritual lessons and spiritual truths for children like this. So I really appreciate you're doing that too. So
Yeah, they're on my website there as well. If anybody is,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Hans. Thank you,
Thank
everybody, for
you.
listening.
What an absolute delight to be with you again. Thank you.
It is. I just really, really enjoy this. I really did. So thanks for agreeing to come on too. And we'll do it again. We'll keep doing it.
Sure.
All right. All right. Thank you, Hans, and thank you everyone for listening. And I now close the Spiritual Forum.